Many are the myths behind Viking heroes. One of them is about the famous Danish and Swedish ruler Ragnar Lothbrok and his sons. Ragnar was the greatest warrior ever seen in the land. He was of great size, handsome in appearance, generous to his men, and fierce to his enemies. But when his sons grew up, everyone was telling how great they were, how no one was their equal, and no one was as famous as they. Thus, Ragnar thought about how he might seek for fame that would be no less fleeting, and decided to conquer England with only 2 big ships, for there was no old tales about such a victory. The king who ruled over England was named Ella. He had received the news of war and had prepared for battle. Ragnar had much smaller forces, and it didn't take long before all his men fell, and he was taken prisoner. Ella wasn't certain that his prisoner was the famous Ragnar Lothbrok, whose sons everyone feared. So he thought wise to cast his prisoner in a snake pit, until he would tell him who he was. But in the end, Ragnar died, bitten by serpents, and he never revealed who he really was, until his final breaths. The piglets would grunt now, if they knew what the old pig suffers. I have fought against foes in 51 battles in all, which seemed a splendid feat. I never imagined a snake would be the ending of my life. Many things may happen which men themselves expect least. Beside the beasts, I'll die now. Soon, I'll be a corpse. These were his last words. King Ella, after realizing what he had just caused, decided to send some men to talk and carefully observe how each of the brothers reacted to the news of the fall of their father. When the messengers arrived in Denmark, the sons of Ragnar had just been feasted in the king's hall. Ivar was sitting on the high seat. Sigurd and Hvitserk were playing a game. And Björn was planing a spear shaft on the floor. The messengers addressed Ivar respectfully and told him the news about Ragnar. Hvitserk and Sigurd dropped their game pieces and attentively observed the report of this news. Björn stood up and propped himself up with a spear, but Ivar, he asked about every detail of his death. When the messengers finished their story, Björn shook the spear apart so that it split into two pieces. Hvitserk squeezed the game piece so hard that blood spurted out from under every nail. Sigurd had held a knife, and he didn't realize that it was sticking in the bone. And Ivar was so enraged that his skin was all swollen from savagery in his breast. The brothers secretly gathered an overwhelming force and set their ships' courses for England, sailing both by day and by night, for they wanted as little news of their coming as possible to go before them. When King Ella was told the news of war, he summoned all the men he could. and where the armies met each other, there was a great battle. The sons of Ragnar were so infuriated that they only thought of doing as much damage as possible. This time, the English forces were much smaller than the Vikings, and in the end, Ella was taken prisoner. Ivar and his brothers, remembering how their father was tortured, had an eagle carved on Ella's back. Then they had all the ribs severed from the backbone with a sword and pulled his lungs out. Ragnar was finally avenged.